I don't understand what Luton's beef with Liverpool, or some of Luton support, what their beef with Liverpool would be, where they've got to, reference tragedies, where they've got to sing about things that relate to Hillsborough or Heysel. And I thought it was really good that, Jamie Carragher mentioned it, because I feel like that's something that we've said for a long, long time now, is that we can all hear it in the grounds. When you go to a match, you can hear it. When you watch it on the telly, you can hear it. And for years, for a long time, we were always like, well, how come the media don't mention it? How come Neville Carragher on Sky? How come Henry Winter? Whoever, how come they all don't mention it? They're all mentioning it now. And I think this is a huge step in the right direction. And there's a big pat on the back for people who've gone to a big effort to put this on the agenda, put it in front of people like Carragher, put it in front of people like, Winter, etc. There are conversations now all the time between supporter groups, between the Premier League. Obviously, like I say, Carragher himself said something on air and then followed it up with a tweet afterwards as well. I mean, inevitably, you see, some grim reaction, some whataboutery and all that kind of stuff. But some of the work that's going on is really, really good. Like, they're getting stuff into schools now, talking about Hillsborough, talking about Heysel, talking about disasters, talking about the impact on people this has. This is not in any book, in any way, banter. This genuinely sends people, down in the dumps. Why all these years on are people singing that at me? Why are people doubting all these years on what unfolded at Hillsborough? Why are you making out my dad or my son or my brother or whoever, was what wasn't wronged in some way? Do you know what I mean? And that is so far over the line, it's unbelievable. So yeah, Jamie said something on air and followed it up saying every fan base has been guilty at one time or another of tragedy chanting. It's not about point scoring between fans, it's about football fans coming together as one and saying enough is enough and this is not acceptable anymore. Hopefully that work will continue and we'll see it less and less. It feels like, it's sort of, to hear it yesterday was a little bit like, well, what's that about? Do you know what I mean? Because it has definitely lessened. I feel like there's been an effect already. And, you saw the other end of the spectrum with Forest fans doing loads of good work, doing a lot of positive stuff around this. So to have that followed up by this, and a lot of it's just baffling as well. I can only presume that some of these people doing it, again, for want of a better phrase, are just thick as fuck. I can't think of any other way to put it, because you had the chants about, always the victim. You had chants about poverty. Like you're singing, you're in Luton, which has got loads of social deprivation problems, and you're singing to Liverpool fans about poverty. Well, I'm baffled, mate, because you're seeing poverty on your own doorstep. You're seeing poverty every time you walk up and down the high street. So what are you talking about? Why do you think it's funny? And why do you think it's something you should throw around at a football match? Don't understand. Higher than average levels of unemployment and deprivation, and high levels of child poverty. That's from Luton Council's website. They also referenced, there was also a song that went out there about "We've never played in Europe because of you." Now, they won the 88 League Cup, so that would have got them a place in Europe. But obviously all English teams were banned post-Heysel. I mean, if anyone needs reminding out there, it was 38 years ago. So, if you haven't played in Europe for 38 years, might be the way your club was run. Do you know what I mean? Might be like loads of reasons beyond looking at what Liverpool fans or some Liverpool fans did once in a stadium. And I wrote a big piece on this because, I'm quite passionate about it. And I just think it just needs to be jibbed. We need to all move on and be a bit better than this now. And they're not playing in Europe because of us. So if we wanted to all be, or if they all wanted to be, or some of their fans wanted to be knobheads about this applies to Everton, Man United, Spurs, Southampton, Norwich, West Ham, Sheffield Wednesday, Oxford, Coventry, Arsenal, Wimbledon, Forest and Derby. Now, we managed to play a lot of those games and I don't hear nothing. So why did a significant number of Luton yesterday feel they were different and felt it was a place they needed to go? It just baffles me.
Yeah, well, it baffles me too. And look, I think it's worth stressing what Carragher said. And fair play to him. When I nearly messaged you actually while watching the game, I thought we'll end up talking about it anyway. Fair play to him for calling it out. You could hear in his voice. He was like, I have to do this, like.
Yeah.
I'm involved in this, so I'm going to say it live on telly.
He made a piece on it, didn't he? It was really good.
Fair play to him. But just to expand on his tweet, when Jamie Carragher says every fan base has been guilty of this, he's including ours.
Yeah.
Like, I have been, as a younger person, in crowds where we've sang about the Munich air disaster.
Same.
And I don't look back on that with any pride. Do you know what I mean? But if you'd have stopped me after that game when I was 16 or whatever it was and said, what were you singing about? I'd have been like, well, we sing about that and they sing about that. And that's where education comes in. Because now as a 43-year-old man, I wouldn't fucking dream of singing about people dying.
Yeah.
And if there was someone next to me singing about it, or a 16-year-old next to me, I'd say to him, mate, do you even know what you're singing about? Because it's not funny. People died and that's not okay.
You can see the ignorance in it. Like Henry Winter, like a reference, obviously wrote a piece today for the Times, like a match report, but he knows that it on some of the chants, and the headline was about the chants, and there are people in the comment box on the Times, which is meant to be highbrow of sorts, grown men, I would suspect, going on about oh well, it's all right when Liverpool do X or blah 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 blah, and like literally, like there was one comment which triggered me and I replied to it. And he said 39 Italians. Wasn't 39 Italians who died at Heysel, mate? And it just proves the ignorance. Like, you don't care about those people. You don't care what happened. You don't care that was a tragedy. It's just point scoring. That's all it is, to get a reaction. For what? For what? And like, even the sort of, like, we're not in Europe because like, go back and educate yourself about what football was like at that time. And if you genuinely think a section of Liverpool supporters acted in a way that other sets of supporters hadn't, and other sets of supporters were some kind of angels at that time, well, no, that's not how football was. And there are a list as long as your arm of incidences that went on with English clubs, and that Heysel was the final straw, and that's why. And my overriding opinion about Heysel is that it's incredibly sad, and the piece I tried to write on the last anniversary of it was, let's have some consideration of the people who lost, loved ones at that, in the way that we want that for Hillsborough. And it shouldn't be thrown around as like murderers and all that kind of stuff. It's just incredibly grim. I actually said in that piece, and I still think it's a thing, by the way, that I think Liverpool should still be doing a bit more. Like, I think the memorial isn't in a good place at the ground. You can't actually get to it currently, except on a match day. So that shouldn't be the case. It should be public. It should be in a place that, because you don't know, we don't know, Liverpool don't know. There could be someone who did lose someone and they want to come and see Anfield one day, and they want to see what Anfield's done to commemorate the person they lost. Yeah. And if it's behind the gate, well, it's not a great look, is it? So anyway, we'll move on from that.
But just to finish that, mate, like, I think that's right, and I think we need to. I'm glad Carragher's highlighted it, and David Conn, who tweeted about it as well, who is a friend of the Hillsborough campaign throughout the years. Like, it's important what you've just said, that more needs to be said about it, more needs to be done about it. Educating kids in school about it is great, and at the same time, most of the people singing at that football match were grown people. Yeah. So have a word with yourself. If you're commenting on the internet about these things with the whataboutery, and you're making these comments about 39 dead and blah blah, have a word with yourself. Think about, just take a second, have a breath before you jump into this stuff and start throwing things around, and just remember what it is you're talking about. Because it's not very nice. Do you know what I mean? It's fucking grim, to use your word.
Exactly. And, it's the same with, like you said before about Munich, like I got something back on Twitter last night from someone saying, well, what about, he said, actually, are you saying Liverpool fans have never sang about Munich? And I said, no, I'm not. Where does it say that? And what anything I've said?
Yeah.
Because like you, I can remember. I wrote a piece about this ages ago. I called it Tragedy Tennis and said it's just sad that we keep going backwards and forwards. You did this, so we're going to do that. You did this, so we're going to say that. Just fuck it all off.
Stop it
Just all be better now. Do you know what I mean?
But isn't it mad? Like there's
no one's saying don't have a go at each other at the match. I love having a go at away fans.
Yeah.
I love being in an away end and having a go at the home fans.
Yeah.
But just recognise there's a line and just don't go over it.
Yeah, but it's mad, isn't it? That like, I know two separate things, but both involve death that we've referenced in this week and last week, which is mad on Footy Show. But it's mad that like last week we said, can't we just all agree that nobody should be killing innocent people? And that seems, Joe, you'd think that would be an uncontroversial thing to say, but apparently not. And then this week it's, can we not just all agree we shouldn't be singing about people dying at football matches? And still, you don't seem to be able to get a consensus, and that's fucking mad. Like, and you know what? That's me being harsh and dramatic, because we shouldn't take what people are saying on the internet as consensus. No. I think actually if you got most people in a room and said to them, do you agree with this? They'd say yeah.
Yeah.
So I think where we should all get back to is we should all do a bit more about it. So if you're standing next to someone at the football match
I would
and they said it, say to them,
jib that. Yeah. Because, you know, you shouting out one thing ends up tarring a whole group of supporters. Like, you know, because we can hear that on the telly yesterday from Luton fans. So we now talk about Luton fans, don't we?
Exactly.
Whereas there'll be plenty of people in that ground who didn't sing a thing, or certainly didn't sing any of that.
And don't agree with it. Because I'm glad you made that point, because there was a very small thing that I got onto over the weekend that made me chuckle, because I think it is funny. And fair play to the person who wrote this. So I went to Marine's FA Cup match at the weekend, and they played Harrogate, who were like League Two. And it ended up being like a fairly convincing win for Harrogate. They won 5-1 in the end. But, you know, Marine did give them a bit of a scare early on and sort of got into them a bit after a poor start. But anyway, but, you know, it was segregated, which it's not normally at Marine. And there was over 2,000 people there. And, like, you know, some of their end had Union Jacks and all that kind of stuff. So there was a few Tories songs lashed out, like, do you know what I mean? And I saw a post from Marine, as in the footy club, on, you know, on social media after, like, the next day or whatever, and some lad had put in the reply saying, just wanted to say, like, I thought Marine played well, gave us a scare, you know, the number 7 was great, blah, 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 blah. And he said, by the way, we're not all Tories in Harrogate, you know. And it just made me laugh, because, you know, that's a thing, isn't it? Like, it's a thing that footy fans can do at the time of, like, oh, well, Luton were singing that. No, some of them were. Yeah.
Bellends were.
Yeah.
And anyone who goes down that road, no matter who they support, if they support us, if they support them, if they support United, if you're going down this road of singing songs about disasters or dead people and looking for a reaction because of that, well, you're a knobhead and just pack it in. If you enjoyed that clip, check out the full show from us live at 5 on This Is Anfield's YouTube channel every Monday. Also available as a podcast on This Is Anfield's podcast feed. And if you like what we're doing as well, check us out on the Late Challenge podcast.